I was 20 years old when I wanted to take my life seriously and change it for the better. I aspired to build a business that would generate an income that I could use to give back to my parents. But at 24 years old, I realized that in the past 4 years of working on my goal, I didn't get any closer to making it happen. I was inconsistent with the action I needed to take. I consistently got high and undisciplined with the actions that were required of me that would result in the achievement of my goal. So in this video, I want to share the 3 things I've done of how I made being disciplined so easy that it's hard for me or I simply can't be inconsistent. So those 3 things are becoming aware of the choices I made that didn't get me closer to my goal, developing a trick to make sure it became easy, and I'm going to share how I stayed motivated throughout the journey. Because the journey is hard, being disciplined is not easy. And so let us get into what discipline actually means. And so discipline is the act of doing something you don't feel like doing in the first place. I don't always feel like waking up in the morning and getting out of bed. I don't always feel like doing the dishes. I don't always feel like preparing my food. I didn't really feel like making this video. But just because I don't feel like doing it doesn't mean that that should be the reason for why I shouldn't do it. This is the mindset that I initially started off with, because if I continuously allowed a feeling to dictate the result of my life, to dictate the action that I was whether going to take or not going to take, then I would not have ever changed my life, because I didn't feel like making the change in the first place either. I eventually had to make the change by applying the trick that made it easy for me to apply that change, which we will get deeper onto the video. And so just because I don't feel it, just because I don't feel like getting out of bed, should not be a reason to not get out of bed. There will always be things in life that I want to do. There will always be things in life that I don't want to do. There will be things that I will be more excited for doing, things that I'll be less excited for doing, and that's okay. That's fine. Life is actually quite inconsistent, and that is as consistent as it will be. And so how did I do it in the first place? Making discipline so easy that I just cannot be inconsistent is, first and foremost, I looked at the choices I made on a daily basis. And so choices shape the future. And I've learned about this by reading a chapter from The Compound Effect, which I will do right now for you all to highlight the importance of choices. And so it's chapter 2 called Choices. Our choices can be our best friend or our worst enemy. They can deliver us to our goal or send us orbiting into a galaxy far, far away. Think about it. Everything in your life exists because you first made a choice about something. Choices are at the root of every one of your results. Each choice starts a behavior that over time becomes a habit. Choose poorly and you just might find yourself back at the drawing board, forced to make new, often harder choices. Don't choose at all, and you'll actually make the choice to be the passive receiver of whatever comes your way. In its essence, you make your choices, and then your choices make you. And so based off everything that I do, the reason why I wasn't moving forward in my life back then, because I didn't get closer to my goal, was because of the continuous actions that I was taking, the choices that I was making, whether consciously or unconsciously, that didn't get me to move the needle forward to making sure that I could provide an income for my parents. And so the way for me to actually discover whether my choices were working for me was by writing down on pen and paper the activities that I was doing, and I paired them next to what I wanted to achieve. And that allowed me to create the polarity between, oh, wait, I'm doing these activities, I'm doing these things, I'm smoking weed, I'm watching Netflix, I'm spending a lot of time on my phone scrolling, I'm playing RuneScape, I'm playing this, I'm playing whatever game, Destiny or Fortnite, whatever I was playing back then. And those were not the activities that were the high leverage ones that would actually make me to realize to building up the business. You know, I wasn't working on a product. I wasn't doing research on how to build a business. I wasn't making any phone calls. I wasn't getting on calls. I wasn't conversating with people. I wasn't collecting data. I wasn't doing market research. All these things that you have to do when you want to build up a business. And thus, I wasn't getting closer to realizing that goal of building a business so that I could provide an income for my parents. And so the moment that I did all of that and brought it down, and kind of also knew that that is what I had to change, I needed to change my relationship to the old habits that I was attached to. And so the thing is, I saw getting high as fun in my life. It was quite pleasant. It brought me comfort. It made me feel good. It allowed me to sleep well. I had quote unquote good night rests. At least I didn't have to go through the struggle of falling asleep with all these thoughts, with having any sort of stress, because I had no stress. That's it. I had no stress in my life, and life was quote unquote good. But in the long term, it was bad because I noticed that I wasn't getting closer to my goal. And so I asked myself the question, what are the consequences of staying in this life? Oh yeah, the consequences of me continuously smoking weed and doing these activities that don't get me closer to my goal, which I am now aware of, will make sure that I don't get closer to my goal. I will not achieve my goal, and I will be lying at my deathbed being reminded that, oh yeah, I spent my whole life not even doing the thing that I wanted to do. So I've wasted it. Those are the thoughts that were going through my mind. This will also mean that if I don't have that business, that I don't fulfill my own promise to myself. Okay, cool. How bad is not fulfilling the promise to myself? Bad. It's bad because I carry the core value to my name, which is I'm a man of my word. And by bringing awareness to the fact that I was not keeping my own word to myself, made me contradict with the idea that I had of me. And so that kind of brought me some pain. And we humans, especially me, I don't like pain. I like being comfortable. And I like staying in comfort. And so I asked myself, will these get me closer to my goal? No. And it brought pain. Good. But there's a misconception about pain. We think that pain is bad, but pain is actually good. And every decision that we make, every choice that we make is based off of something we feel pain for. And so we're avoiding pain. We're always avoiding pain. The question is, what pain are we avoiding? And let me give an example. If I were walking outside and I'd be surrounded suddenly by 10 people who wanted to stab me and punch me, they wanted to cause me harm, I'd have two choices to make. I'm either going to fight it or I'm going to flight it. And both are because of I have a fear of dying in that moment. And so regardless of what decision I make, it's because it's acted off of a fear that I have off of me. A fear that I am experiencing in that moment. It's subconsciously, you're not aware of it, but it's a natural reaction that we have. And so pain is a strong emotional factor and gets us to avoid something else. In that case, it gets me to avoid death. And so the way we use pain matters. And so the pain of not accomplishing my goal after asking this question is bigger than the pain of change. Because I am now avoiding the pain of having to deal with the fact that I never accomplished my goal, never kept my own word to myself, that I never be able to provide an income for my parents. And so that's now the pain that's driving me. Like avoiding this pain is now what is driving me to move forward and actually transform the feeling of getting high as fun instead of as a bad thing. And that made me start craving the harder, quote unquote, harder tasks that I needed to do, which I needed to apply discipline for, to now finally do them. And that made it easier. Cool. And so something that I like to do that I learned to do, not really because I liked it, but that I learned to do, was to progressively deload. The thing is, the habits that we have formed, they take time to unlearn. The choices that we made for a continuous amount of time, as said in the compound effect, they turned into habits. And so it is absolutely important to slowly build them off, because I didn't expect to quit smoking weed instantly. I had to break off the pattern that I was in. And I had to slowly introduce new habits into my life that would take away the time that I was smoking weed. Because you cannot take something away and not replace it with something else. And so progressively decreasing the bad habits, and progressively increasing the good habit, which was working on the business. And habits take time to form because they have roots. And the longer you have a certain habit in your life, the harder it will be to take it out of you. Because, for example, a little tree that is just planted, like let's take a sapling. If a sapling is planted into the soil, it will be easy to take out because it's quite young. Take, for example, a tree that is middle-sized of your height, regardless of what height you are. Try to take that one out. Okay, that will be a little bit more difficult, but it may be manageable. Now try taking out a big tree that's been standing there for, 50 years, that is 3 times your size. Try and take that one out. It's not going to be that easy. You will need different tools, different material, a different tactic. You have to take into account other aspects of what will happen if you take that tree down. And so that's the same thing with the habits that we have. So that's why we have to be patient. Although I don't like saying it, because I'm one of the most impatient people that you would ever meet. I want things to go fast, and maybe that's because of the fact that I've always enjoyed playing games, and I liked fast-paced games like Call of Duty, like Fortnite, and that allowed me, that quick stimulation was what I enjoyed for a very big part of my life. And so that is still something that reflects in my life. Yet, we need to be patient with where we want to go and with changing our habits, the choices that we make. Cool. And now self-awareness around the habits are important. And the thing that has, okay, where is it? Okay, cool. And the tool that I've used to do that is to stay in check. Well, the tool that I've used to stay in check is to apply self-reflection. Because to progressively decrease the bad habits and progressively increase the good habits, I've learned that I needed to check it. And so what I've done is I was reflecting on the inputs I've put in. So I asked myself in the evening, what did I do today that got me closer to my goal? And I wrote down all the inputs that I've put in. Then, by doing so, I'm actually celebrating the wins. I'm celebrating what I have done that day that got me closer to accomplishing that goal. And then I would ask myself the question, what could I have done better? And this is where I highlight the moments of weakness that I've had, the moments where I struggled with realizing the moments where I struggled to do what was necessary to get me closer to my goal. So that could be maybe I indulged in playing video games. Maybe I felt some weakness and I decided to go to bed and lie down and complain that life is hard and that life is difficult. Or I didn't feel like doing it. Like, for example, I didn't feel like going to bed on time. And so I didn't go to bed on time. And so the next morning I wake up and I will be sleep deprived. And so these are the things that I would then write down. Then I would ask myself, what are the 3 main tasks for me to do tomorrow? And I would just highlight the 3 main activities that I should do that just slowly get me closer to that goal, to slowly implement the habit of showing up consistently and applying discipline. Cool. And at the end of the week, I collected all the data, which for me usually was on Sunday. So that means all the inputs from Monday all the way to Sunday. I wrote them all down, and I wrote a letter to my future self. And in that letter, I would tell myself, hey, future Mark, I sacrificed this week to make sure that I did these activities so that in the future, you don't have to suffer through what I've been suffering through right now. And so I would write a huge letter so that if I would read it in the future, I would be happy for the actions that I've taken in the past, and I would express gratitude for my youngest self. And this creates somewhat of a positive feedback loop because, as I said, the journey is hard, journey is difficult. And it's just a matter of making it as easy as possible to stay consistent with it. And this is what has helped me to stay as consistent with it. Doesn't mean that it could be as easy for you, but I can only share what has worked for me. Cool. And this allowed me to remind myself of the mission. As I shared, I sacrificed this week in order to make sure that you have a good life and that you fulfill your promise to your parents, or the promise to yourself, so that you can generate an income for your parents. I'm reminding myself of what it actually took to get to this position as well. And it just made sure that I showed up. And I did this continuously, and I still do this every week. And it helps me. And in the last almost 4 years of doing this, I've been able to change my life completely. I don't smoke any weed anymore. I have a consistent job. I've gotten 2 clients with my business. I've generated a total of $18,000. So yeah, that is awesome. And that's because of finding a way to make being disciplined so easy that it's hard for me to be inconsistent. So I hope this video was of value for you. I'm wishing you an amazing day. And always remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.